Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Music of the Week. Not really got a lot of time to waste for this one. Got about 6 albums to go through, so let's go through them, and thankfully I'm a lot better today compared to how I was last week because I was sick last week, so yeah, let's go. We begin with Alcest and their newest album, Le Chant de l'Aurore. I'm definitely not pronouncing that correctly. My French is rusty, to say the least, even though it was the foreign language subject I did take in secondary school. I'm giving this a B+. I thought this was solid proggy metal sort of stuff without doing that thing that proggy metal does, which is make it kind of boring. Actually, the production on this one is very light and has a breezy feel. It's almost actually like fun, which is not something I could say about prog metal, which can be a bit too complex. And I like the instrumentation of it a lot. I like the production. I think the pacing is pretty solid too. And I like the performances. My issue might be with the lyrics, because this is an album that uses its instrumentation to try and tell its story, which is good, but I'm one of those weirdos that likes a story to be told using words, and there really isn't a lot on this album. It's not an instrumental album, because there actually are lyrics, and thankfully they're sung in English, which is helpful for me, because I don't speak French, but there's very few actual lines of any dialogue. I don't know if you can find them on the Bandcamp page or not, but I couldn't really find anything for themes because there's so few actual words said, and it feels like just a brief break to sing a little bit of something and then go back to the instrumental work. It is a bit of a weird approach, a very unique approach, and I do appreciate it, but maybe it's something a bit too advanced for my plebeian brain, I don't know. I did enjoy it though, and I do recommend you give it a spin. Next we have Black Country Communion and their new album V, appropriately their fifth album, because every band has to do that, I think. When they say their fifth album, just name after the Roman numeral, because no band has done that before. Also, this band's name is a bit of a lie, because they're called the Black Country Communion, even though of all the band members, two of them are American, two of them are English, and only one of them is technically from the fucking Black Country. That would be the lead singer Glenn Hughes, who's from Cannock. I've been to Cannock, it's alright. Give this one a B, and spoiler alert, that is the third lowest grade. There are 3 other albums in this episode that have that grade. Yeah, I liked it. I thought this was some really good throwback style, heavy metal leaning hard rock. It does have the charisma and swagger, that sort of vibe. Glenn Hughes is a really good vocalist. He's a very charismatic frontman. For someone who's in his 50s now, he's still got a really good set of chops to him. Solid bassist too. I think the guitar work is probably my favourite thing about the album. Pacing is a little bit middling, but mostly inoffensive. It doesn't really push boundaries, but it doesn't really feel like it needs to. I liked the riff work mostly. I thought the production was quite clean too. And again, the performances are solid. The lyrics are mostly just about defending the faith of music, and I think there is another theme, but that's the only one I can remember looking up. But yeah, solid enough, mostly harmless, bit of a dad vibe. Not the only dad vibe album we'll get in this episode either. I quite enjoyed it though, and I always have to shout out, the Black Country being from there myself, even though, again, only one of them is actually from there. Fucking lame bastards, but yeah, I still recommend you give this a spin. Next is Dan fucking D, or just Dundee, with his new album Anthems. So, I find it weird that, I was just talking about a band doing a generic naming thing, where they just named their fifth album V. I think it's equally generic to name a collection of songs just anthems. However, this one does get the highest grade of the episode, which is an A, and Dundee is someone I have an interesting history with, because I only found out about him last year because I was looking up battle raps featuring a battle rapper I quite like named Shuffle T, and he did one against Dundee. I recommend you watch it, it's a lot of fun. But yeah, Dundee that has actually put out albums. I think this is his 4th or something. And I actually did a reaction to the intro, what I didn't think was going to be the intro track to this, called Lay It Down to Build 'Em Up. And yeah, this is a really good album. It's full of emotion. Dunn is a really good rapper. More importantly, he's a really solid singer too, and producer. He mixes this album really, really well. I like his lyrics. There's some really good wordplay, really solid usage of multi-syllables, which is something I'm a big sucker for. Good setups to him, good pacing, good build-up. I like the guest spots, although it is a shame that his best mate Greeley only appears on one song. I want more Greeley, personally. We need more Greeley in our lives, let's be honest with ourselves. Yeah, really good stories, really good lyrics focusing on themes of losing a child, his divorce, his substance abuse issues, and the fact that he's just a much better person these days. It's a really, really good theme, and I like when a rapper actually uses their personal life and actually talks about it in a positive way, even having to get through all the bad shit that they've gone through. I really like that. Dundee's just a charismatic person anyway. He's very, very fun to just listen to. I will admit, it's not an entirely perfect album. I think Goat Gang is a very unnecessary song. It's just like a very look at how hard me and my mates are. It's a very long song. It's the longest song in the album, pushing 5 minutes. I'm just like, that didn't need to be there. And also, it ends. The album ends with a remix of probably Dundee's best known song called Pull Your Head In, Mate. And I'm like, why is that at the end? It should have just ended with Lucky Man. Lucky Man is a really good closer, my favourite song on the album, and it just... weird choices, but still a very fucking good album, and my highest recommend from last weekend. Next we have Earth Tone 9 and their new album in Resonance Nexus. Now this is a first for me, which makes sense as this is the band's first album in 11 years, and I quite enjoyed it. I'm giving this one a B. This is, one of the things I alluded to earlier with the whole, tied for B thing. At the gate, I will admit this is some really solidly put together sort of post-hardcore leaning alternative rock / alternative metal, I think is the official genre given to it. I thought it had some really good riffs, and I like the performances as well. The band is clearly have a lot of passion for this, and they have a lot of dedication. Even though this is their first album in 11 years, they don't sound lazy. They're actually really trying to give it their all. The production, very, very clean as well. I like how it was handled. I especially like a lot of the sound editing on this one. The riff work, again, is really solid, but a lot of the songs, to me, sound very samey. There's not really a lot of variety with them, except for the song Third Mutuality. That is an amazing song. The second to last song on the album as well. That's been a recurring theme throughout this year, hasn't it? My favourite song on a lot of albums being the song that should have ended the album but comes just before the ending song. Weird that. Fucking weird. But still, really liked it. I thought it was pretty well handled. I think this is a band from England too. I could be wrong about that. But again, pacing is a little bit weird and a bit repetitive in places. Also, the lyrics, the main theme is just persisting through the odds. I'm like, okay, you couldn't really read that though. I had to try to dig to even find that. So imagine what it was like to dig to try and find a lyrical theme and just find that it's kind of a boring one, to be honest. I don't know. I still thought it was a really solidly handled and nicely written in terms of riff work. Really good performances, really good production. So yeah, I recommend it for those factors. It's still solidly put together alternative metal. Really enjoyed it. Next we have a debut, the only debut in this episode, Foreign Hands and their first ever album, What's Left Unsaid. Now this is a band I sort of stumbled across, I think as I was just looking for stuff together for June, honestly. And I'm giving this one a B. I think that will surprise a lot of people, because a lot of people are giving this album a lot more praise. And I did like it. I don't think I liked it as much as most of the people. I will admit, I liked the riff work, right? I thought the riff work was really good. The production was fantastic. I mean, Will Putney, that is a big fucking name to get for something like this, and he does a really, really good job. Released on Sharptone too, that's a really good label for this style. It is more of a metalcore thing, with some really good emo vibes to it, I would say. Good performances from the band themselves too. The lyrics have an interesting usage of a rose motif, which I think is good, but in my opinion, it is one of those lower points for the album because they should have leaned into it a little bit more, and it just feels very bleak in some places, and also the pacing is very, very familiar, especially early on in the album. The first 3 songs, I feel like you could just switch them around in any which way. And I can tell you which song started those 3 and which one ended those 3. And there's 10 songs on the album too, I think. Still, I can't fault the dedication, and it's got a lot of that. And this is their first album. So again, I give them the benefit of the doubt. And also, B is still a really good grade. This is still a really good band for their first album too. Solid enough writing for me, really good performances, probably the most passionate part about it. Will Putney is a really good producer. He works really well with the band and does a really good mix here too. Yeah, I mean, pacing issues aside, and the fact that they don't fully lean into the lyrical theme, it's still really good. I will admit, though, the clean vocals need some work. The scream vocals are really, really good. The clean vocals need a little bit of work. And also, I quite enjoyed the riffs, so, yeah, that should about do it. And finally, we have Islands and their new album, What Occurs. I believe this is their 10th album. And I will admit, when I saw this and decided to add it to my list for last weekend, I got it mixed up with a band named Future Islands, who are generally more interesting, and also I think they actually put an album earlier this year. Still, I'm ultimately giving this one a B. I thought this was some really charming and kind of basic, but in that simple but effective way, indie rock. And much like I didn't like Foreign Hand's new album, well, first album as much as most people, I didn't hate What Occurs as much as most people. A lot of people sort of blasting it, saying it was a bit bland and a little bit toothless. And I'm like, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I quite enjoyed it. I thought it had a lot more going for it than people might think. I think the performances were quite solid, especially lead singer Nick Thorburn. I like the synth work on it. I like the guitar riffs. You know, bass is good, drums are good, production's quite nice. Performances are solid enough for me. You know, I will admit the pacing can drag quite a bit, and also the lyrics are fucking dumb. There are some really stupid lyrics. There's a song called Arachnophobia on the album, and I think the metaphor is just to describe fears that you go through when you get older. And by the way, that's a solid main lyrical theme, just like aging and trying to learn to live with it. But like, why would you have a song called Arachnophobia and not mention spiders? Why would you mention snakes instead? Snakes have a phobia attached to them. It's called ophidiophobia. My sister has it. So I'm just wondering, like, why would you have one called Arachnophobia when you don't mention fucking spiders at all in the song lyrics? It's weird. But again, despite that, I couldn't bring myself to hate this album. I liked it again. Much like I mentioned earlier, this is sort of like a dad album for me, a solid dad album. Yeah. I don't know, I sort of vibed with it. Like, it could have been improved upon in some areas, but also it was their first album in just 1 year, and it might feel a little bit rushed, but I don't know. My first album by them, it was their 10th one. I couldn't bring myself to hate it. I actually enjoyed it a bit more than most people would. Next is the official ranking system. It's going to be a bit weird to do, considering that 4 of the albums have the same fucking grade, but we'll get through it. So at the bottom, I'd probably put Black Country Communion with V, Islands with What Occurs, Earth Tone 9 within Resonance Nexus, Foreign Hands with What's Left Unsaid, Alcest with their new album, the name of which I'm not going to try and say again because I'm not good at French, and Dundee with his album Anthems. Feeling like the top, but as always, go and listen to all these and formulate your own opinions. Favourite song probably goes to Lucky Man from Dundee's album Anthems. Just really like the lyrical theme. Again, it should have closed the album. I don't like that the actual album closes with a remix of a previous song he's done, not even on this fucking album, but still a really, really good song. Yeah, just a really sweet song too at the end of the day. Favourite album cover goes to Foreign Hands cover though. I really like it. It's got a really good presentation to it. Yeah, I love the placement of the album title especially. That'll be it for me though. Next thing you've seen before should be tomorrow for the halfway show of PVW vs AVW. Speaking of which, I need to get a new female core in because someone's stepping away, and I need to, and I'm not going to be using the core anymore, and I have a respect thing, so got to work on that. But you know, should be able to get a show put together tomorrow. So we'll see you all for that, and also maybe a reaction. If I can fucking remember to do one, because I just haven't done one for so long. It might be it might be a Cry Shell song because there's someone who's been bugging me for that. It might be a different song I've been meaning to do for a while that I just haven't done. We'll see. But that'll be for then, and I'll see you all tomorrow for something. I have no bloody clue what. As always, thank you for watching. You're awesome. Bye bye.